Welcome to Wrasslin Raw!
All right, you're listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when Raw became war and Attitude ruled. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
Something feels oddly familiar about this episode, almost like a deja vu or something, right?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Joe Giammatteo.
Well, this podcast takes great deliberation to put together.
I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett, and we're going to examine WWE history, one episode of Raw is War at a time. But first, we have some house cleaning to do here. As anybody that was following us knows, we had a brief hiccup last week, so we are back this week, all cylinders firing.
Gassed up and ready to go.
Yeah.
No natural disasters, earthquake or typhoon this week.
Mother Nature has been put in her place where she belongs. So, with that being said, we have something that I am very, very excited to debut here on the podcast. Ryan, please.
You've got mail.
God, I love that. It evokes an image of Shawn Michaels hunting and pecking at a small laptop. Well, that sound indicates that mail call. We've got some mail that we need to go over here. Just a real quick one from user Geo Jr. 815, I think is how you would say that on YouTube. This is on our April 6th, 1998 episode. Triple H had hair back then.
Yeah, he did.
He did, Geo.
He did not have a beard either.
No.
Yeah.
No, he didn't.
I always say now he looks like a juiced up Walter White now.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's pretty good. But we had to mention that. We love getting mail from the listeners out there. And also, I just wanted to crow a little bit, exploding our numbers all over the place, coming day and night, essentially.
Well, especially on YouTube. It seems like for whatever reason, that's really been taken off on YouTube recently.
Well, months ago, we had that push from Baby Gangsta Dick.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's just been building ever since.
Yeah.
It's the long play. See, and that's why he's a gangsta, because he does the smart moves and they turn into long plays. He worked his magic months ago and it's all coming back now.
He's a good hand.
Hell of a hand. All right. Well, now that part is out of the way, one final piece of business. Next week, I have 18% of my time left in the schedule, and I simply cannot fit recording into that amount of time. So we have, once again, cleared out all of the Alex the Pug Porto paraphernalia here.
Temporarily.
Of course, it has a permanent spot in our enormous studio here in order to accommodate a big goddamn wheel. How's about it, folks?
The big wheel of death.
That's right, Bartlett. Chalk up those hands and...
Yeah, so for our listeners out there, we've got a very large wheel on loan from CBS, and we have removed all of the cent amounts and replaced these with alternating Joe and Ryan, and we're going to find out who is going to host the podcast next week. So I'm sure you guys are really excited to hear this, and I am excited to spin this behemoth. So let me just get chalked up here. All right. Whew, I almost pulled my back out last time. Had to go on some somas, but we're going to be a little more ginger.
Easy, man.
1, 2, 3. Oh, Ryan Arico
Again
is the winner.
I'm the big winner tonight.
He's batting 1,000, folks.
I'll try and be a good hand.
Make Baby Gangsta Dick proud. All right. That concludes the housekeeping. Thank you for your patience, everybody. We're glad to get that out of the way. Very happy to have that fucking "You've Got Mail" sound in there. I'm sorry.
That was special for you.
I'm geeking out about it. All right. So, in this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about the Raw that aired on April 13th, 1998. This Raw was recorded at the Core State Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and features Jim Ross, Jerry the King Lawler, and Michael Cole on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
I'm ready, but why the riot gear?
Well, let's get into it. This episode was started with a video recap of last week's altercation between Stone Cold Steve Austin and Mr. McMahon, complete with JR throwing in that gem, "Rattlesnakes don't make good corporate pets." Once we got through the proper intro, things kicked off with the glass breaking and Stone Cold, the man himself, coming down to work the corners and pop the hell out of the crowd. Steve called Vince on out for a chat to clear things up, threatening to hold up the whole show if Vince didn't come out. He was even promising not to kick Vince McMahon's ass there in the ring, which the crowd didn't quite care for. Sure enough, though, Vince very timidly peeked his little head out from behind the curtain just to see what the situation was, and ended up coming down the ramp flanked by Pat Patterson and Jerry Briscoe. But that wasn't all. Vince apparently also grabbed a couple of SWAT officers in riot gear to come down with him. JR asked why the riot gear.
Not only that, like, how do you order riot police? I know you can call the police, but how do you get the riot police to show up?
You go to Spirit Halloween and pick up some.
I don't know what you're talking about, Jeff. That sounds ridiculous.
Maybe these were a couple of carpetbaggers he brought in from New Jersey. He called a favor in with Governor Whitmer.
That's probably what happened, yeah.
Got some scabs over there. He's in Philly, after all. It's not a far drive.
Just over the river there.
Right.
So first up was Austin's next opponent at the pay-per-view, but McMahon, he hasn't made his mind up on that yet. He preferred to remain silent. After some back and forth, Austin ended up offering to defend the title tonight. Steve even went a little further and stated that he was going to give Vince McMahon the title shot tonight. And if Vince doesn't do it the easy way and try to earn the belt in the ring, along with that belt comes a lot of decision-making ability, and power, I guess you'd say. Austin was going to grab a cameraman and beat the shit out of Vince in his office. If Vince even thought about running, his limo driver already unconscious. Tires already slashed.
That was a great touch.
Don't even worry about that part, Vinny. And this wound down with an exploding crowd and JR summing it up for the viewers. One way or another, Vince McMahon is getting his ass kicked tonight. And after a commercial break, we came back to Pat and Jerry in the back with Vince giving Vince a pep talk. And things got a little weird after that, so I'm going to pause it here. Ryan, we got a story nicely laid out for this episode. We've got Austin versus McMahon for the title tonight. I'm sure we're going to get plenty of entertaining updates throughout the evening as we get closer to that. And with all of this going on, it sounds like I'm going to be staying tuned in. What about you?
Yeah, I think that's a perfect way to put it, because them starting off with continuing this story is the perfect way to get people to stay tuned all night. You tell them from the beginning, Vince McMahon is going to wrestle Stone Cold Steve Austin. And everyone knows that's going to be the last match of the night, but I don't think I would be changing it if that's what I was told is going to happen tonight. And they both played their parts perfect here. Vince came out all sheepishly after Stone Cold calls him out, and after he lays down the demands that he's going to either face Stone Cold tonight or he's going to bring the cameraman backstage and beat his ass back there. I just loved that concerned look on Vince's face. It was just perfect. It was a great way to start things off and just a great way to continue this awesome story that we've been following now for a couple months. And then the quick scene backstage with Patterson and Briscoe. I love that we're kicking off the age of lackeys now with Vince, because I always love those two at his heels everywhere he goes. It's just a great scene. I loved everything about this.
Yeah, they always time these segments perfectly, too, because Vince got the stunner the first time in New York, and now they're in Philly, and they're doing this, and that's just a perfect place to do it. And these guys, Austin and McMahon, they know how to work a crowd, and they have them in the palm of their hand here. Everything just works here. And if you place yourself back in this time period, this is extremely exciting. We've never seen Vince McMahon in the ring in a match before. So this is really exciting, must-see TV, and you're not changing the channel once they tease this. So
we haven't been exposed to the Vince McMahon black wife beater yet.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is a really exciting start to the show, and Stone Cold Steve Austin has the crowd screaming "Hell yeah!" when if you want to see Vince McMahon get his ass beat, of course everyone is going to scream "Hell yeah!" at the top of their lungs, and that's what happened here. So real hot start to this show.
Yeah, we all three said that we'd be staying tuned in, and that's going to get tested, very, very strongly tested with our first match of the night. The Disciples of Apocalypse, Skull and 8-Ball versus Los Boricuas, Savio Vega and Jose Estrada, ends in a no contest in 2 minutes in a chain match. God damn. Gang fucking warfare, folks. We just can't get away from it. After such a long respite, we thought it was gone, but it kept coming back. So like I said, things got really weird here because both of these teams got the jobber treatment. No entrances, no introduction, no explanation of the chain match.
Rightfully so.
Or why we're having it. But do you know who did get an introduction? D-Generation X, as they came down to ringside to watch the match, ostensibly to distract the DOA. And let's not forget that DX had micturated on DOA's Titan motorcycles last week.
Beautiful scene, yeah.
I guess each member of each team was chained to a corner with a 20-foot chain that pretty much allowed them to go anywhere they wanted, so I'm not sure how that was really a restrictive measure. And Chains was there, which of all of the people to not be chained, I would think that Chains would be chained. I don't know. None of this made any sense. DX started beating Chains with chairs. That was the first good thing that happened in this whole segment.
Beat the shit out of him, really.
Yeah, he ended up getting a pedigree onto the chair and even a spike pile driver up on the chair on the steel ramp. So that was good to see. But anyway, unless you couldn't tell, this was all about DX attacking the DOA. There was zero focus on the match until DX got in the ring and attacked DOA. Los Boricuas were helping DX, but thankfully Los Boricuas got a pair of nut shots from China for their trouble, so that was good to see. Speaking of good to see, Chains got carried out on a stretcher as DX's music played. And once again, both teams here, DOA and Los Boricuas, getting jobbed out in every way possible. Ryan, this would be tragic if it weren't so hilarious. What did you think of all of this?
That's a perfect way to put it. The moment the match started and they announced DOA versus Los Boricuas in a chain match, I said to myself, you have to be fucking kidding me. Like, this is the fucking 353rd time DOA versus Los Boricuas, and whoever is booking this, go fuck yourself. Go fucking straight to hell, whoever's booking these matches, because I don't understand who could have a coherent thought back there and say, this is what we need to do. But thankfully, there was a silver lining. DX came out and just kicked the shit out of all of them. Both teams just completely jobbed out to DX here. And I was a little bit afraid that the Los Boricuas, either there was going to be a loose alliance for maybe a couple weeks, but no, DX put an end to that and nut shot on all of Los Boricuas, and they just told us, no, both of these worthless fucking factions are gone. And the only ones that we're really going to focus on is the much superior faction, D-Generation X. So there's a hit and a miss in this match. We had to sit through these two terrible factions, but it was just for them to get their ass kicked by the superior DX. So hopefully DOA and Los Boricuas will be gone soon, and we won't have to talk about them anymore.
Yeah, I'm going to take a little peek at Nitro here, but then I'm going to come back and be pleasantly surprised to see these teams get completely buried by DX. I would much rather see that than DX burying Owen Hart. So
yes.
I'm okay with this, and they did beat the living shit out of them, so I enjoyed it.
Yeah, what's not to love with dipshits getting their asses handed to them? All right, next up, we went backstage. Shane McMahon, Shane O'Mac, he had joined the powwow back in the locker room talking to Vince, except Shane did not want Vince getting hurt and was trying to talk Vince out of it. After a brief interlude, Vince came out to the ring and interrupted a match that was about to get underway in the ring, and that looked like the team of Brian Christopher and Scott Taylor against Aguila, and based on the kitty cat outfit, I think that was maybe Pantera.
That tracks. Yep.
We got no real information on either of them. Vince kicked them all out and grabbed a microphone. Vince laid out his reasoning for accepting Stone Cold Steve Austin's challenge to have a title match later on tonight. After that, Briscoe and Patterson came out to congratulate Vince. Commentary was just acting aghast. And JR actually got up and left with the words that he was going to attempt to prevent all of this. And just as everyone got back in the ring to start the match, the lights went out. But it wasn't Kane. This time the bell tolled, and the crowd popped hard for The Undertaker coming down the ramp. The Undertaker pulled a Kane here, though, and demolished all of these light heavyweights there in the ring before grabbing a microphone. The Undertaker called out Kane, informing Kane that he is no longer the hunter, but the hunted. Undertaker wants Kane tonight and went looking for him. That was followed by the Starburst Slam of the Week, going back 2 weeks to when Austin gave Vince McMahon a stunner. And back in the locker room, Kevin, oh my God, Kelly, was showing us a candid video of JR confronting Vince with Shane, Briscoe, and Patterson. They were all arguing. Ultimately, Vince stuck to his decision to fight. So, by God, the storytelling here is heavy, but entertaining, and I love how we get updates in like an almost serial fashion as the episode progresses. Joe, what'd you think of this segment?
Well, it's great to see Shane O'Mac there now as part of the Stooges, if you will. Shane is a great character. He's going to give us some great material over the years, great entertainment.
Yeah.
And some good matches, too.
Yeah, some good matches. Apparently, I read in The Observer that I guess Shane he played a big part in getting Mike Tyson to the WWF, too.
So maybe that's why he was involved in that storyline a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess he was working behind the scenes there. And it's great to see him there. And I love the banter between him and Vince, because Vince was asking him, are you saying I can't take Austin? Yeah, and then Vince interrupts this jobber match that nobody cares about, which was nice. I mean, I didn't expect to see Vince again so soon come out to the ring. We just saw him not too long ago. So pretty cool part there. And I got to give Michael Cole some credit. We do bust on Michael Cole quite a bit, but he was doing
all
a pretty
in good fun.
Yeah, him and JR both, they were doing a pretty good job at selling this whole McMahon versus Austin thing, that Vince is crazy and shouldn't be doing this.
It's going to rip the company apart.
Yeah, they were both doing a really good job with that. And then Michael Cole did a really nice job at selling The Undertaker. Like, is The Undertaker teasing a heel turn here? He's attacking innocent people. So I thought Michael Cole did a nice job of telling that story. And in the back later with Kevin Kelly, Shane is back there again, and he tells his dad, this is the dumbest decision you've ever made, but little does Shane know that Vince will make much dumber decisions later in life.
This is a great example of what we get a lot of in the Attitude Era. We're going to get less wrestling. There's no way to put that lightly. We're going to have less wrestling and more storytelling. But if the storytelling is like this and it's interrupting matches like that, good. I don't care. That is a good development for the way Raw is going, and this was a perfect example of it. It's just continuing that story from earlier in the night, and Vince comes out here, tells us, you know what, I'm going to take on Stone Cold. He's got his two yes men out here backing him up, smiling and clapping like the worthless yes men they are. Just really fantastic television, I thought. JR leaving ringside, it just added a little extra credibility to the chaos that this event is causing between Vince and Stone Cold. Then they swerved me with Undertaker. The minute those lights went out, I was popping either way. I was expecting to hear the organ play, but surprise, surprise, it's the Undertaker who's coming coming out and doing his best Kane impersonation, beating the shit out of a bunch of jobbers, and then grabs the mic and he tells Kane, it's time your big brother shows you what evil's all about. That was a fantastic line. He then says, you're no longer the hunter, but the hunted. And I thought this was one of the best Taker promos that we've gotten out of him in quite a while.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed this entire segment from beginning to end. And to finish off, right before we go to break, they show the backroom footage with Shane talking to Vince, trying to talk him out. And my favorite part was when he tells Shane to go outside and get my gym bag. And that's what we end things on there. So, as we said earlier, firing on all cylinders with this storyline.
Yeah, agreed. And I especially loved the Undertaker thing here because we talk so often now about keeping these feuds and stories fresh, and that was a hell of a way to freshen up the Kane-Undertaker feud, so very glad to have it. All right, let's go now to our next match. Taka Michinoku defeats Double J Jeff Jarrett with Tennessee Lee by disqualification in 3 minutes. Tennessee Lee breathlessly introduced Double J, who was Son's Tennessee stud, and a rain of pamphlets started flowing down from the ceiling advertising Jarrett's upcoming performance with Sawyer Brown at the upcoming pay-per-view. That was just all over the place there in the arena. A camera and microphone was backstage with Steve Blackman, who we got in split screen, and Steve gave us a bit of a wooden promo, and it wasn't too bad, but you can tell the mic isn't his forte. Taka was already in the ring at the start of this. Got the jobber treatment. Tennessee Lee got on a headset and was just screaming at JR and Michael Cole in split screen during the first half of this match. Double J in the ring was slipping on pamphlets there on the mat while trying to execute moves. I thought that was funny. Taka ended up getting the DQ win when Club Kamikaze, that's the name of that group of guys with no explained motivation for hating Taka Michinoku, interfered from the crowd, attacked Taka, and ran back out through the crowd. It wasn't over there, though, because Double J put the figure 4 on an unconscious Taka, just to rub some salt in the wounds. Tennessee Lee got in the ring to celebrate, and I thought it was hilarious that Tennessee Lee was just constantly ducking himself down to make himself look shorter when standing next to Double J.
Because he's a professional.
Yep.
I have to admit, I'm curious about this angle with Taka and Club Kamikaze. That seems like that could have some legs to it, but I would really, really love some kind of additional information on that. And, of course, Joe, is our resident asshole for Tennessee Lee, I have to go to you first. What did you think of this match?
Well, I don't know about you guys, but it's going to be really hard for me to not skip ahead to this pay-per-view to see this Sawyer Brown performance. I don't think I can wait.
That's all I've been thinking of ever since they talked about it.
I don't think I can wait. I'll probably watch next week's Go Home and the pay-per-view just to be able to see that.
And then again the following week so you can watch it again.
Yeah.
Right. And thanks to Tennessee Lee's promotional skills, too. He's really doing a great job at promoting this performance. And that's what is going to make everyone want to pay money to see that event, not anything else. I thought about this at first. I thought, wow, is Taka a fucking jobber already?
We've been talking about that for weeks now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought, oh no. But then Club Kamikaze comes out again, and these guys look pretty cool. They got a good look to them. They come out from the crowd, which is cool, and they attack Taka. And then I laughed out loud when Taka got the figure 4 applied on him while he was unconscious there. So that was
lifeless body.
Yeah, that was funny. But yeah, I'm interested in where they're going with this Club Kamikaze versus Taka feud as well.
Yeah, to start off, I loved Tennessee Lee introducing Double J here, but I did not love that the Tennessee stud is gone.
It is sad.
And it looks like Double J's light gimmicks are glitching out a little bit. The jacket and pants were coming on sporadically. The light on the hat was steady, but the jacket and pants were going in and out. So hopefully they can get that straightened out. But Taka, poor Taka, he was definitely getting the jobber treatment. We start things off. We go to split screen with Blackman instead of focusing on the match. Then we come back for about a second. Then we go to another split screen so we could show show Tennessee Lee barking into the mic. But then before I could bust out the old Jobber of the Week pen and start writing it up, he got a DQ victory. So that spoiled that plan. But with, what was it, Team Kamikaze or
Club Kamikaze?
Club Kamikaze. They come out, and I agree with both of you. This shakes things up a bit for Taka. It's not Pantera. It's not Aguila. It's not Brian Christopher. This is something completely new. So I'm glad to see that. And one of the guys here even had an Iron Maiden shirt on, which I thought was pretty badass.
Yeah.
Before they ended the segment, though, I did love hearing that Chains was in the back being worked on by the medical staff. So looks like Taka might have to get in line before he could get worked on.
Getting worked on with a pillow over his face, hopefully. So let's go backstage. Stone Cold Steve Austin was back there, and the cameras were on him, and JR from the commentary table wanted to know if Steve was surprised at Vince accepting the challenge. Steve wasn't surprised at all because Vince was going to get his ass kicked one way or the other and made a good choice. So we got a new backstage view then of Jerry Briscoe showing Vince how to counter the stunner into a takedown, which I thought was great. And when we came back to commentary, JR said nothing and was just shaking his head disgustedly, and I fucking popped at that. Sometimes it's the words you don't say. Michael Cole gave us a rundown on the situation until some unknown rap music hit the house PA system. This was Farouk coming down to the ring in jeans and an abdominal wrap. Farouk grabbed a mic and got down to business, cutting a promo, challenged the Nation of Domination to come out for an ass-kicking. The Nation of Domination did come out. The Rock was in the lead with a microphone and got down to cutting his own promo, but it was a trap. Farouk had Ken Shamrock and Steve Blackman waiting in the wings, and this ended up as a 3-on-4 at the bottom of the ramp with a flood of officials trying to break it up. That ended with a commercial break, which was followed by a 10-3-2-1 rewind to Cactus Jack quitting last week, which will be relevant here shortly. But we'll pause it here. We got two more updates here. Vince's so-called training, if you will, and then an update between Rocky and Farouk. I'm not sure what to think of Shamrock and Blackman coming down for Farouk, but I'm willing to give it a chance. Ryan, what'd you have on this segment?
Steve's quick promo was solid. He said, I'm going to kick Vince's ass, and that he got some bad advice to accept the challenge, but it didn't really matter because he was going to get his ass kicked nevertheless. So that was good to hear. The shot with Briscoe and Patterson trying to show Vince how to counter the stunner, I thought was just hilarious. It was a funny scene that it just seems ridiculous. You're going to try and train a guy in 15 minutes how to beat a superstar, right? But I did enjoy Farouk coming down. He's now separated from Nation of Domination, and he comes out with his ribs all wrapped up and calls out The Rock. And The Rock, he comes out and cuts a very rockish and beautiful promo. He even pulls out the millions and millions of fans at home line. That was good to hear. And speaking of his fans, the crowd is a little bit split here. You could hear some of them chanting Rocky sucks, but then you could hear others just chanting Rocky. So they're definitely split on if they love or hate him right now. And that's something that's really cool to watch, I think. But before the Nation was able to jump Farouk, Blackman and Ken Shamrock come out and save him, which, Bartlett, I think it leads some credence to what you were saying a couple weeks ago, that you remembered Farouk costing The Rock the belt to Shamrock. And now that they seem to be in a bit of alliance with each other, that definitely makes some sense there. So everything here, this is just another example of story-heavy segments that are good. They keep on working.
Yeah, the interview with Austin was just quick and to the point. Vince again in the back. Jerry Briscoe teaching him self-defense moves makes me think of the stories of Jerry Briscoe teaching Shawn Michaels self-defense before the screw job. So that was funny to watch that. And Farouk, he comes out like a pissed off dad. He says, I'm going to make this short and I'm going to make this simple, and cut that quick promo there, which was great.
He does like to light people up with his belt too. So very dad.
Yeah. Yeah. And The Rock comes out with this beautiful shirt on. It was like a shiny black shirt. Jerry Lawler's going to look good in that shirt.
Yeah, in a couple of weeks or months, he's going to look perfect in that.
Yeah, and then Ken Shamrock and Steve Blackman come out. That's fine. I think the thing that bothers me about that is that Steve Blackman is in a feud with Double J right now, so I'm not sure why he's really involved. But I feel like this is something that's going to be very short term anyway.
Yeah, and as I said before, we ended this segment with the 10-3-2-1 rewind to Cactus Jack quitting last week, which has direct impact on our next match. Terry Funk and Too Cold Scorpio.
Nice.
Who?
Scruggs. Defeat the Quebecers, Jacques and Pierre, by pinfall in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. Chainsaw Charlie, definitely done, I guess. They're not even trying.
Yeah, no, he's just Terry Funk now.
Terry Funk is out in the traditional Funk You shirt with those really weird color clashing tights that he wears, the blue, white, and black. I think there's red in there too, maybe. But Terry started this out introducing his new partner. And I love the fact that he was doing this in Philadelphia, because what better crowd to appreciate this than the ECW crowd, who already love Terry Funk and already love the person that Terry introduced. Terry said McMahon never gave him a chance and introduced Too Cold Scorpio, and the ECW chant got going there. The Quebecers got the jobber treatment here, by the way. There's an awful lot of that happening tonight. JR called Too Cold Scorpio a blue chipper, and I popped. Mandatory there. And Too Cold got the pin after a 450 splash, which looked tight as hell. So that's it. I wish I had more to add to this, but at just over 2 minutes, this was a jobber squash match for Too Cold Scorpio and Terry Funk just to get them over, and that's fine. It was great to see them there as themselves, finally. So Ryan, what'd you think of this match?
Along the same lines as you, I thought that this was a solid jobber match that did exactly what it was supposed to. First, we have Terry coming out, addressing Cactus Jack's talk from last week, saying he waddled his way out to the ring, but he got himself a new partner tonight, and I was super excited to see it was Too Cold Scorpio. No more ridiculous boots or hats or flash funky fucking whatever music. Flash Funk is dead. Too Cold Scorpio has risen like a phoenix from the ashes. Hopefully it's not too late. If we look ahead, we think we know it is, but it's nevertheless great to see him out of that character and into the character he belongs. It was a pretty solid match, especially when PCO was in there, because as we've said before, for a big guy, he moves around the ring pretty well, and I thought he put over Terry Funk and Too Cold pretty well. And then Too Cold hit that 450 splash, which just looked absolutely amazing. So I thought that was a great end to it, and as you said, what better place to do it than Philadelphia? So yeah, I thought this definitely worked and did its job here.
Obviously, the only thing that you worry about with this is like, this isn't going to have any type of longevity to it,
right.
You know? But for the purpose of entertaining this Philadelphia crowd, this goes off pretty well. Terry Funk just make an appearance and they're happy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get this Too Cold Scorpio, so you have that ECW connection now, which is connecting with this crowd, which works, but unfortunately commentary tried selling it as Scorpio has been held down too long, and unfortunately I agree with them, which is why I'm not all that optimistic about it moving forward. But man, Terry Funk, I feel like I reported from the Observer a week or two ago that he was going to take some time off for that terrible bruised kidney that he had or whatever that was. Yeah, like no time at all, man. No surprise. He is back out there working in the ring. So props to Terry Funk.
Tough as old shoe leather, that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's keep it going here. So next up, Luna came down the ramp in some kind of weird sea captain outfit. I was going to try to think of a way to make a Captain and Tennille reference, but failed miserably at it. We did get a view of the straw hat flower shirt guy there by the ring, so it was good to see him and his comrade there present.
Kind of looks like Waylon Mercy a little bit.
Yeah. Luna got on a mic to cut a promo saying that she wanted to settle the beef with Sable right here, and that is what ended the first hour of Raw. When we came back, Goldust came out dressed as Sable. As soon as he hit the ramp, he had a microphone and said, "You little bitch!" And I fucking popped. They had a mock evening gown match there in the middle of the ring. Goldust did not put the microphone down and narrated the entire match as it was happening, which was fantastic.
Quit it, you're hurting me.
But then Sable came running out, and I stopped enjoying it. Sable was wearing a loose-fitting blouse, and of course it got torn open. Officials broke it up, and that ended this segment. So, Joe, I love that we got some Goldust in this, because it feels like he's taken a back seat during this whole Sable-Luna thing that we've got going on. What'd you think of this?
Yeah, well, first off, I love there was a sign in the crowd that said, "We are lunatics."
Ooh,
yeah.
I missed that.
I would consider the three of us to be lunatics.
Absolutely.
We're all fans of Luna's work. And Goldust, you're right. It's almost like he has taken a back seat. A lot of this stuff that Goldust has done as, I guess, the artist formerly known as Goldust, I've shrugged some of it off. Maybe just, I don't know, overexposure maybe. I'm not sure. But this had me laughing my ass off the entire time that it was happening, with narrating, commentating the match. Was just hilarious. And then, of course, ripping off the dress completely to reveal the old lady underwear that he had. And that was just great. But yeah, then Wendy Whoppers comes down and makes one of the worst run-ins that I've ever seen. And poor Luna, you can tell she has to hold back, which makes it look worse on TV because she's clearly holding back, allowing this non-wrestler to beat her up.
Yeah, Joe, I agree. I think all three of us here are lunatics. And to start it off, I loved how Luna started it. Luna telling Sable that the anticipation is greater than PMS and that the flow is so severe, she wants to settle it right here and now. They're really amping up that Attitude Era speak here with lines like that.
I love when she calls her a slut, too. It's always funny.
And then Goldust comes out and he just makes this segment even better. Not just how he looks, but as you both mentioned, when Luna starts ripping off this dress, him doing the commentary as it's happening, laying on the ground, was just fucking hilarious. But then Sable comes out and ruins it. Comes down to the ring, beats the shit out of Luna. Luna, of course, has to hightail it out of there and act like she's completely petrified of Sable, this scrawny, never wrestled before enhanced woman. And that's where everything ends. I thought it was a great segment up until Sable coming out. So that's a shame. And I continued to feel bad for Luna just about every week.
Yeah, so let's not dwell on that then, because we have something to talk about here. Our next match. Ken Shamrock and Steve Blackman versus the Midnight Express, Bombastic Bob and Bodacious Bart, with Jim Cornette and Dan the Beast Severn, ends in a double disqualification in 3 minutes and 46 seconds. The Midnight Express got the jobber treatment here. And this started with a stare down between Ken Shamrock and Dan Severn, and I loved that because on top of that, you had audio of JR highlighting the record, the rivalry, the dislike between these two. That was a hell of a little scene. It was only maybe 10 seconds, but it was fantastic. Severn did get sent out of the ring area, and this got going. And the work was pretty good. This would have never earned Match of the Year nomination, but everybody in this was solid. It was unclear to me as to what exactly caused the double DQ, but JR speculated for us that it was due to nobody listening to the referee and generally ignoring the rules of wrestling. So that had to be a first. And that's it. Yeah, not a ton to say about this. The work was great, but otherwise it came off as a filler match. Best case scenario, this was a reason to put Shamrock and Severn eyeball to eyeball, but then also keep them apart. I don't know. That's just me spitballing it. Joe, what'd you think of it?
Yeah, it was a reason to get them face to face, and it also seemed like it was just rushed, like, hey, let's get this over with. It's almost like it got cut short because of the show format or something, but I did not like this match. I hated how the finish was, all of a sudden we are calling double DQs because they don't listen to the referee now. Like, that just doesn't make sense. So I hated the finish, and Shamrock and Blackman, they looked like they just polished off a 55-gallon drum of steroids, so they look pretty good. But outside of that, yeah, this was not a good match.
It started off with Ken and Dan the Beast Severn staring each other down, which was a good way to start it, and JR giving us all the stats on their feud with each other from the UFC days. All of that was good, except looking ahead a little bit, I don't think they ever actually face off against each other. So I think that's going to be a bit of a blue ball situation for us, unfortunately. And the match, it was solid up until that terrible fucking ending. Joe, you just perfectly highlighted what was wrong there. It was just out of nowhere. We just decide this match is over and we get told it's a double DQ. And there was absolutely nothing that we saw here that justified a double DQ. Unless, I don't know, maybe someone was injured. If someone got a bad injury or something, then sure, do something stupid like this. But I felt that this ending soured this whole segment that started off pretty strong.
Yeah, the only thing that got hurt in that match, though, I think was maybe Bart Gunn's pride.
Well, not as much as it's gonna.
Who's Bart Gunn?
Excuse me, Bodacious Bart.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right, let's get to backstage. Kevin Kelly again was looking on as Jerry Briscoe and Pat Patterson were keeping up with the pep talk there with Vince. Back at the ring area, the Headbangers were there in the ring, and we then cut again to Kevin interviewing Vince McMahon about the upcoming match, and that got really ridiculous really quick. When asked if he was afraid, Vince McMahon started his response by saying he proved he wasn't afraid of the United States government. He sure as hell isn't afraid of Ted Turner and Time Warner. And he sure as hell isn't afraid of Stone Cold Steve Austin. Back in the arena, the Headbangers were still there, and the lights went out, and the bell tolled. And I didn't think things were looking that good for the Headbangers. Obviously, Mosh and Thrasher never had a chance. Things were going that way when the lights went out again. But this time, it was organ music, hellfire and brimstone, and what JR was calling the most evil human being in WWF history. I don't know that Kane ever shit on a woman, though, so I'm not sure how
that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah,
that's true. That is
not that
true.
we know of, anyway.
Yeah. Kane and Paul Bearer stopped at the top of the ramp. Paul got on a microphone to cut a promo, and I fucking popped when Paul Bearer said that they would meet The Undertaker in a fucking graveyard. Not just a fucking graveyard, the fucking graveyard, to wrestle on top of their parents' graves. That was followed by another Val Venus vignette. He had a couple of good-looking ladies there with him. He gave a very perverse monologue on how he plans to violate the World Wrestling Federation. And we'll pause it here. We got a couple of things to go over in this segment. Ryan, I personally am looking forward to a wrestling match on a couple of graves. What did you have on all of this?
Well, so am I. But the very start of this was the Headbangers getting jobbed out yet again. And they got Jobber of the Week years ago at this point, and they get jobbed out just about every week. So just need to bring that up yet again. But when Paul Bearer and Kane show up and tell us that next week on Raw, we're going to see The Undertaker versus Kane in the fucking cemetery on top of their parents' grave, holy shit. I'm tuning in next week. No doubt about it. That's something I want to see. I loved the challenge by Paul Bearer. I loved Undertaker's promo. Every week they do something else to freshen this up. And again, I will say best damn story in wrestling and also better than Shakespeare. Oh, and Val Venus, touch on him. This was another very lewd vignette from him. He threw out another one, Lust in Space. I thought that was a good one you'd enjoy, Joe.
Yeah.
This time, though, they had to blur out some nipple from one of Venus's co-stars, so that was something a little extra. And they are just going way over the top with the sexuality in the new age of Attitude. So pretty funny.
Starting this off again with Kevin Kelly and Vince McMahon in the back there, it's a nice reminder, okay, this is why you're not changing the channel tonight. They keep reminding us of what's going to happen later, which is just a really good format for the show. We've talked about it the past couple of weeks. It seems like they've really settled into a nice format every week where they start out with this hot story and they just keep it going, keep teasing it, and then we expect to get it at the end, but we'll talk about that later. And with Kane coming out here, I couldn't help but notice Kane is getting crowd pops now. Like he's not necessarily a babyface, but the fans are showing that they are excited to see Kane, which is really great to see.
Much like The Undertaker when he first came in. It was like, he was supposed to be a heel, but it didn't matter. The fans wanted to like him. Yeah.
Yeah, and what's really impressive is Kane is over huge with these crowds, and he has not said a damn word, and he's been there for, 6 months now or so. Yeah. So that's really impressive. It's just it's a testament to how great wrestling was in the late 90s. You know, you had Sting on one channel, and you have Kane on the other that are just, huge with crowds and not saying a word. And Val Venus, I have Venus envy. I am excited to see Val Venus and watch him explode inside the WWF. So these vignettes are fun, but I want to see him get in the ring and cut some of those legendary promos.
I wonder how long it's going to take for that to happen. I thought I remembered him having quite a build-up. A lot of edging going into the debut of Val Venus.
That's a guy that you have to give a nice build-up. You have to inch by inch, if you will.
You need to have that foreplay.
Yeah.
We know that he will at least be showing up by early June so that he could give Chains his final match on Raw and some packing.
Oh, man.
Okay, one more reason to appreciate Val Venus.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep it going to our next match. Owen Hart defeats Billy Gunn with DX by pinfall in 8 minutes and 30 seconds. At the start of this, Triple H got on the mic and cut a promo detailing how they would pick which member of DX Owen would fight. And I thought it was really entertaining when it wasn't shitting all over Owen Hart. But Owen and Triple H are going to have a rematch at Unforgiven. And I'm not sure if that's new news or not, but we'll see what happens. This feud hasn't been lighting any fires in me, at least, so I guess we'll just find out. Things got worse, though, here. LOD 2000 came out in their full mask and gear to back up Owen, and things did briefly pick up for a split second as we got a video view of Vince McMahon backstage just ripping some fucking bicep curls. Before we broke to a commercial, and then came back to Owen getting jobbed out in split screen with DX on commentary. X-Pac still pretty terrible on the mic. Triple H, on the other hand, actually doing really well. He did a fantastic job of putting things over there with JR and the King. At one point, a rubber chicken ended up in the ring somehow. That was never really addressed or brought up. And that's about the most excitement I could muster for this. The work in the ring was good. Triple H on commentary, good. But it felt like a case of the pieces being greater than the whole. I don't want DX feuding with Owen Hart. I don't want LOD 2000 feuding with the New Age Outlaws, because as good as some of those individual pieces are, they just don't add up to anything in this particular equation. So Owen ended up winning this with a surprise roll-up that looked good, and that was it. This match, it just felt like nobody cared. Ryan, what'd you think of it?
I would agree, and nobody cares because we've been tired of this feud for months now already, and it just keeps on dragging on. Even though DX has their fingers into a dozen other stories, they're dragging this Owen Hart humiliation along with it, and I don't really know why. But the match, when you actually got to see any of it. Owen, he looks good in there and is going up against the Ass Man. And I did enjoy the segment with Triple H showing or telling us how they decided who was going to face Owen. I thought that was entertaining. I just thought it was stupid that it was for Owen. And then LOD 2000 coming down the backup Owen, that did absolutely nothing to help anything out here. And the best part of that was that DX made fun of them, saying that LOD looked like they're in RoboCop outfits, which they do.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's hard to ignore how over I am with this feud with Owen. The back and forth was fine, just this story needs to end. But I was surprised that Owen didn't get ultimately humiliated in the end. He somehow got a roll-up victory. I'm shocked that DX allowed that to happen with Vince. But yeah, it's very forgettable, I think is the way to put it.
Yeah.
Owen Hart comes out and he interrupts DX. I thought this was just weird. He interrupts DX and asks them who has the cojones to take him on. And I'm thinking, like, this dude's been jobbed out and buried for the past how many weeks? Like, what crowd is going to even take that seriously? Yeah. But what's sad about that is, remember, if we go back to when Owen came back after the screw job, I was mentioning, like, they almost had a Stone Cold Steve Austin light in Owen Hart at that time. He was feuding with Vince McMahon, but he could have feuded with Sean. Yeah, coming out of the crowd in just street clothes. Man, if they would have gone that route, something like this maybe could have worked. But it's not working for me, brother, because he's been buried for weeks and weeks now, and it sucks. And we need something new for Owen Hart to get involved in quickly, hopefully after this pay-per-view. I did enjoy Triple H on commentary as well. I liked that he was referring to Sonny as Skanky instead of Sonny. I thought that was funny. And I also laughed when Owen got the best of them at the end there. And JR said, hey, Owen's got 2 words for him, suck it. So hearing JR say suck it on commentary was pretty funny to hear.
Speaking of funny, after that, we got a view of Vince McMahon making his way to the ring in his wrestling gear, and the king popped on that saying, my gosh, he's ripped!
The prototypical steroid body.
Yeah.
After the announcement from Tony Schimmel, Vince came strutting out in exercise Zubaz pants and a Gold's Gym muscle tank, followed by Jerry Briscoe, Pat Patterson, and Commissioner Slaughter. When he got to the ring, Vince started doing stretches, which I loved also. Shane O'Mac came out after everybody else. He was looking very baby-faced here, and by that I mean he looked like both a good guy and just plain young. And Vince started shadow boxing in the ring right before the glass broke, and I'm just going to keep this going as we head into our final match of the night. Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Vince McMahon with Pat Patterson, Gerald Briscoe, and Commissioner Slaughter ends in a no contest before it could get started in a WWF Championship match. Vince started this with a slap, and for a second, I thought Kevin Kelly was on commentary because JR immediately lost it with an "Oh my God, oh my God." Before things got going in earnest, though, Vince grabbed a mic and pointed out that Austin claimed that Austin could beat McMahon with one arm tied behind his back, and then pulled out some rope, which I forgot to mention it earlier, but that was part of Austin's challenge. Vince wisely requested the stunner arm and started calling Austin hot shot, cinch it up tight, hot shot,
cinch it up.
I'm trimming things down a lot with that because this dragged out for a very long time. And just as they were getting ready to ring the bell to start the match, a funky backbeat hit the house PA and Dude Love came out. Dude Love was not happy about this situation because he's a fan of Vince and Vince's money, I guess. That was, it enables Duder to live the lifestyle that he lives. And that was until Vince shoved Dude Love to the mat, though, apparently frustrated at interrupting things. Duder did not like that. He went and attempted to apply the mandible claw to Vince and got attacked from behind by Austin, ended up applying the mandible claw to Austin instead. Austin ended up down in the ring, and Vince started to leave. Vince kept trying to get back into the ring, though, to go after Dude Love. And Dude kept putting Austin down every time Austin got up. And then I fucking popped my ass off when Dude Love did his knee dance thing in Vince McMahon's face to taunt him there. I fucking loved it. And we got the end of show graphics there with Dude Love planting Austin on the commentary table with another mandible claw. But with 8 minutes remaining, it was time for some extra attitude. Thank you, Peacock or whomever, for this extra attitude. Austin was still laying there, and Dude Love got on a microphone to keep taunting him. JR attempted to untie Austin as Dude Love danced his way up the ramp to exit the arena, and Austin made a beeline for the entryway, but was ambushed by Degeneration X and dragged back to the ring, where they got a dog pile on him. Then, out of nowhere, Kane entered the ring, and then LOD 2000, and then The Undertaker. This ended up being listed as a dark match, actually, to round out the evening. I saw this in my research, but after it was all over, Austin got on the mic to give a quick promo, and that is where we faded to black. So I didn't get into the details of that so-called dark match. Nothing of importance really happened there, except there were a lot of superstars in a clusterfuck in the ring. And as entertaining as this all was, going the whole way back to the start of this final match, I have to admit that I was a little disappointed with how this turned out. I actually wanted just a little bit of action between McMahon and Austin. I knew we weren't going to have a full match, but I don't know, some kind of, tie-up or something. But I do love where we're going with Dude Love and Austin. That's great shit, pal. So, Joe, get us going on our final match and the way that Raw ended tonight.
Yeah, apparently from what I read, this Philadelphia crowd was not too thrilled with how this ended either. They were a little restless at the end there, but this is the kind of shit that it's easy to watch this now, but back then, like, this is the type of stuff that would keep you up. Like, you're so amped watching this, you're not going to bed anytime soon. You're not going to fall asleep anytime soon, because the build up to this was just really good throughout this whole episode. And yes, they were milking it so hard with all the cinch it up and all this shit that you knew there was going to be shenanigans, and the shenanigans were with Dude Love. So it's hard to not like Mick Foley being involved in this. I don't understand why they didn't go with Mankind somehow instead of Dude Love. I just don't know if a Dude Love heel turn is going to be the best thing. I know how they're setting it up, but I don't really remember this too well, but I'm not sure why they didn't just use Mankind if they wanted Steve and Foley to work together.
I remember it pretty perfectly, this whole storyline, so I'm not going to spoil anything, but there's definitely a reason why we're starting off here with Duder.
Okay. That all happens, and then we get the extra attitude, and I have to say, like, it's a pretty cool peek behind the curtain of what they were giving the live crowds after the shows would be over. It's just an all-out brawl. You get everybody coming out. The crowd was loving it. They were losing their minds during this brawl. But this is the type of stuff that makes the WWF or WWE now like one of the biggest global entertainment companies, is that they give you this extra stuff. They give you your money's worth when you go to these shows. So I thought that was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, to further what you guys are saying here, I think we all knew Vince McMahon and Stone Cold weren't going to have a drag-out match here, but I was maybe just slightly disappointed only in the fact the build-up was so strong.
Yeah.
There was so much build-up that they almost set themselves up for failure in that it would be kind of hard to deliver with how much build-up it was. So I didn't think this was bad by any means, just maybe not quite at the level the build-up was. I enjoyed seeing Vince come walking down to the ring, and we get kind of the first shots of the grapefruit strut as he comes down. He's given that little bit of a move back and forth. The proto grapefruit strut is what we got here. He's got the black tank top on. That's the first time we see that. So all of that was good. Then Duder comes down and we see where the swerve's going to happen here. But I thought Dude Love did a good job of, well, two things. One, solidifying his heel turn from last week, making sure these fans do hate him. And two, setting up a match between Mankind and Stone Cold. That's fucking fantastic. These are two of the best in the company, so this is a feud I'm interested in. So I guess the swerve that they pulled on me here, I don't hate. It's just the action itself. Just like the fans in Philly, I wanted to see Vince get his ass kicked, and we didn't get that. So that's where I think most of the disappointment comes from. The extra attitude stuff here, and it's interesting, Joe, you said that how angry this Philadelphia crowd was about the earlier segment. I wonder if this was something they just did at the end to pull out and try and make them happy. Like, hey, let's just get all our stars out there and have a quick match so they see everyone. But the thing that was a little confusing to me was I had no clue this was a match until the ref comes running in and does a 3 count. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
There was no bell. There was no announcement. Like, when did this become a match?
Yeah, I think maybe the actual like television coverage was just not solid. They must have like cut off the beginning or something.
Yeah. All around, I thought it worked pretty well, and I'm looking forward to Stone Cold and Dude Love.
Yeah, and as I said, we faded to black. So let's take it on over to highlights and lowlights. Joe, why don't you take that first?
Well, I'll start with a low light because there wasn't a whole lot about this episode that I did not like other than this Steve Blackman and Ken Shamrock versus Midnight Express bullshit match. The Midnight Express, they suck. They were brought in as this big surprise and they already suck and are jobbers. And that double DQ finish was just shitty and made no sense. But my highlight is going to be really the main story of this episode, and that's just everything with Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Mr. McMahon. Every segment we got was just getting you excited and keeping you from changing the channel.
Yeah, Joe, we're going to match up perfectly tonight. My highlight is the episode-long saga between Stone Cold and Mr. McMahon. It was perfect. And my low light is especially the way that the Ken Shamrock Blackman match ended. That double DQ with the Midnight Express was just horrid.
Yeah, so this is a first for me in the history of the podcast. My highlight was Dude Love interrupting Austin versus McMahon. My low light was Dude Love interrupting Austin versus McMahon. I like where we're going with this. I am excited about the future. Anytime I can get Steve Austin and Mick Foley in a program, that's fine by me. But like we said earlier, I just a tie-up or two. Maybe just a little moment where Stone Cold punks out Vince McMahon and makes him flinch.
We got the slap.
Or something.
The slap, yeah.
Yeah, but that really made McMahon look stronger than Austin. So, like I said, just a little flinch, a little juke, something to make McMahon cower just a teensy bit. All right, Joseph, you wouldn't happen to have any contemporary wrestling news from on and around April 13th, 1998, would you?
I do. Ryan, could I please request some sort of celebration type sound? Maybe a crowd cheering or something along those lines. There is reason to celebrate. Thanks to people like Club Kamikaze and Tennessee Lee, the 83 weeks has ended.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
damn.
This is the episode that broke the 83-week streak for WCW Nitro. Raw drew a 4.63 rating tonight, and Nitro did a 4.34, according to the Wrestling Observer.
Wow.
Not only did WCW lose their streak, but apparently there are some issues brewing backstage between Ric Flair and Eric Bischoff. So things are not looking too
Some
good
heavy
for
hitters there not getting along.
WCW. Yeah. And I don't know if you guys remember, but Scott Hall apparently was invited to an ECW house show on April 11th by PJ Walker, otherwise known as Aldo Montoya. And Scott Hall was apparently run off by Shane Douglas, Francine, and Bam Bam Bigelow, is what the story is, but I'm not sure if that's true or not. Apparently, the week before WrestleMania, Chains was sent home because he was in no condition to work.
Ooh, drugs and alcohol issues.
Should have fucking stayed there.
He almost got fired. Can either of you guess what saved his job? Or who?
The Undertaker.
The Undertaker.
Yes.
Yeah.
As big as an asshole as I am for The Undertaker, there's just
Damn
sometimes
it.
he makes
ruined it.
some very questionable decisions.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys noticed, but Ken Shamrock had a little bit of a limp tonight, and maybe this was part of the reason why that match was so screwy there and finished. But apparently he has some sort of legitimate injury. Possibly a knee injury, so we'll have to stay tuned on that.
Let's just juice it up a little bit. We'll get that.
Just inject
Roll
it straight
right
into the knee.
You guys may or may not remember, but Jenna Jameson worked with ECW for a little bit during this time period, and her deal with ECW is coming to an end shortly, so the WWF has inquired with Jenna. There have also been rumors of Marlena potentially returning to manage Val Venus, so we'll see where that goes. Steven Regal, or William Regal as some know him, has officially signed with WWF.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thanks to his buddy Steve Austin. But he does have a no-compete clause, so we may not see him for a couple of months. But he is an official signee for the WWF.
Maybe we could actually have some European go after the European title here?
Yeah.
Maybe. X-Pac reported a week or two ago that he was still nursing a neck injury, but his first match is set to happen at King of the Ring as of right now. So we may see him in the ring in a couple of months. And Dave Meltzer is reporting that Scott Taylor will be given the name Too Hot. And
he sure will.
Him and Brian Christopher, who is known as Too Sexy, will start teaming together.
Well, they tried tonight.
They tried. They tried their hardest and failed. And that is all.
All right. Well, thank you, Joseph. Illuminating as always. And that's it, folks. We are done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us. If you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can email us at WRASSLINRAW. Just add at gmail.com to the end of that to submit questions or comments. Check us out on social media and on every podcast subscription platform. While you're there, don't forget to follow and subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and tell all of your friends to tune in to the most devious Monday Night Raw review podcast on the airwaves. Next week on Wrasslin Raw, we're going to take a look at the Raw that aired on April 20th, 1998, with matches featuring Dude Love, Bradshaw, and many more. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrasslin Raw.